1920s was a decade of extreme prosperity in the US. The United States became the world's number one power following World War I. What also came with the end of World War I was immigration. Immigrants wanted to come to the United States for better opportunities. After World War I, Europe was left in a very poor state. European government had collapsed and it left many Europeans broke and in despair. The war destroyed lots of European houses and land, making Europeans want to move. Also, America was in an era of great advancements, and in America, European immigrants could practice their religious beliefs freely. So immigrants loaded onto boats and headed to the US. Immigrants were treated very poorly in the United States during the 1920s. The American people were disillusioned by the carnage of war and clung to the old policy of isolation. Americans denounced un-American lifestyles and turned their backs on immigrants. Groups formed such as the American Protective Association and the Immigration Restriction League to try to restrict immigration to the U.S. The Ku Klux Klan even changed its policy of trying to stop African Americans from voting to hating anyone that wasn't a white Christian American. However, some organizations tried to help the immigrants. Representatives of the Settlement House movement, the Immigration Protective Association, and the International Ladies Garment Workers Union all tried to assimilate immigrants into American culture, aka Americanization. Americans didn't want immigrants coming to the U.S. because the soldiers that were coming back from war went back to work in the factories and they didn't want to compete for jobs. Also, Americans didn't want immigrants to change American religion, culture, or way of life. A group called Nativists formed. Nativists' main goal is to stop the flow of new immigrants to the United States. The Red Scare and the Russian Revolution also strengthened the nativist position by scaring Americans into thinking immigrants could start a revolution in the U.S. On the eve of World War I, Congress passed a law requiring immigrants to take a literacy test. Immigrants who could not read or write their own language were prohibited from entering the United States. President Wilson vetoed the law, but Congress overruled Wilson's veto. Two important laws, the Emergency Quota Act and the National Origins Act, established a quota system in the U.S. What the Emergency Quota Act did was restrict the number of immigrants to 357,000 per year, and also set down an immigration quota by which 3% of the total population of any ethnic group already in the U.S. in 1910 could be admitted to America after 1921. The National Origins Act tightened the 1921 quota system by setting quotas at 2% of each national group residing in America in 1890. Both of these laws helped set up the United States quota system, which established the number of immigrants that were allowed in the United States. My topic is a continuity with the past and the future. America has always tried to contain immigration. For example, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which prohibited all immigration of Chinese. Too many Chinese immigrants were coming to the U.S., so Congress passed this act. The same thing happened in the 1920s when two important laws, the Emergency Quota Act of 1921 and the National Origin Act of 1924, established a quota system to govern immigration from Pacific countries. Even today, the U.S. is trying to restrict immigration. Too many Mexican immigrants are coming to America, so Donald Trump is building a wall. The roar of my project was how the United States was able to lower the amount of immigration to America. Social and cultural changes in America helped do this by people becoming anti-immigration. After World War One, the Red Scare, and the Russian Revolution, people were afraid of immigrants and didn't want them in the US. Also, in the 1920s, America went through a huge economic boom, making America prosper. Civilized Americans didn't want immigrants coming to the US and changing their way of life. My topic wasn't exactly roaring because America has always dealt with immigration problems, so this wasn't America's first rodeo.